at the time, not crying.
Casino trip, full of chips. Wanna flip, double it.
Welcome to the Full of Chips podcast, the only chips you'll never lose, where the stakes are high, the takes are bold, and the conversations are always full of chips. With your hosts, Chris the Dice Degen and Craig from Old Bay Craps, you're tuned in to Full of Chips, the podcast where we dive into our experiences gambling and stories straight from the casino floor. Whether you're a seasoned pro at the craps table or just curious what the buzz is about, you're in the right place. Each week, we break down the games, talk to the experts, and bring you tips that could tilt the odds in your favor. So grab your lucky charm, stack your chips, and let's roll into today's episode. As the year winds down, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening, watching, sharing, and being a part of our Full of Chips community. Whether you've been riding hot tables, grinding through cold sessions, or just learning the games, we appreciate every minute that you spend with us. The holidays are a reminder that while we love the action, the stories, and the strategy, it's the people that matter the most. Friends at the table, conversations had after a big win or a tough loss, and the lessons that we carry forward. Most importantly, enjoy time with family, friends, and your loved ones. Those are the for sure real bets that you can guarantee. From all of us here at Full of Chips, we wish you a happy, healthy, and prosperous holiday season, and we will see you in the new year. Craig, anything to add?
Yeah, I want to say this season, we hope you find a little extra joy at the casino, maybe even a little extra luck, because let's be honest, we could all use a hot streak now and then, and here's to good company, good stories, and good moments ahead. So from all of us here at Full of Chips, happy holidays, stay warm, stay safe, and stay tuned, because the best is yet to come. Welcome, everybody, to episode 22 of the Full of Chips podcast, the only chips you will never lose. I'm your host, Craig Old Bay Craps, but I can't do it alone, as I always like to say. I got my good friend Chris Dice Degen here with me. He's my co-host. Together, we're here to show you the showdown at the craps table. Chris, how we doing?
I am doing fantastic. The showdown episode Dosey Dos. And yes, for all my Spanish speaking friends at home, I know that's not how you say 22. But I don't care. I like it better that way. Dosey Dos. I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Wonderful evening. Get to talk to you. So it's always a good evening. How are you tonight?
I'm doing all right. This is episode for the casino craps players. This is episode hard 4. The 2-2.
Oh, there you go. The 2-2. I mean, just so much like the planning that goes into this stuff. I mean, who would have thought? And for the folks at home, there's zero planning. It's just we start talking and it's like, wow, look at all these things that come to our heads.
Right. We could do a mini rant right now, but we're just going to save it.
Yeah, we'll save it. But I do have to bring up one thing that we did talk about. Because it's funny enough, I did go to the grocery store today, and
Are you chastised?
I did throw. No, I didn't get chastised like you in the last episode, but I did push that cart beautifully. And for the folks at home who don't know, a little side note: Craig sent me a video a while back of the German women's international shopping cart pushing like tournament. I mean, this was the most exhilarating thing I wish you could bet on in the U.S. Like, I really do. Believe me, I went down a rabbit hole trying to find like places this was legal to bet on. I couldn't find any, but if anybody knows where to bet on women's shopping cart pushing, let me know. And that's not saying that I'm a total degenerate, but like this looks like something that could really be studied and figured out. Like the technique, the force that they're pushing with.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think I could do it.
I
But
mean,
I think you would be much better at suction darts, which is another video that
suction
I sent
dunks.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, in case anybody cares, Craig and I, when we talk, it's mostly in videos, and we just send each other funny shit that we see online. But yeah, Craig sent me a video of suction darts. I've almost bought those like 6 times, but I just feel like I'm gonna buy them and think this is the dumbest shit ever, and literally throw them and hope that they stick to the sun and burn.
Yeah, I mean, the video that I sent you, it got serious, as the judge had to measure the closeness of one dart to the other, and it looked pretty even Steven, but yeah, they eventually gave it to the guy on the left, all I know. But suction darts, I mean, it's a thing. I guess if you could do beer pong, when was beer pong going to be on sports betting?
I mean, listen, I wish I was back in my prime, let me tell you, because the beer
Which, by the
pong
way, was
table
only like
feared me.
5 years ago.
Yeah, but I mean, I've lost the touch. I can tell you, I've played recently, and I am nowhere near as good as I used to be. I used to be automatic, um, and yeah, I don't know if that's something to brag about or not, but like, I
No,
used to be really good.
you just reminded me of the movie Boogie Nights. You got the touch. You got the power. Right?
I mean, sure, I'll take your word for it. Another movie I have not watched,
Jesus
but
Christ, Chris.
no, yeah, the beer pong table were sick. I used to play in tournaments in college. The bar that I worked at had a beer pong tournament every Tuesday night, and let me tell you, and when me and some people got on that table, the solo cups, not a single cup was safe. They were in trouble.
They were in DGen world.
They were.
They
They
didn't
were.
know. They didn't
Now
know that you had already set them up for failure.
I know. Now you're gonna make me go buy those and like
You
play
got to
with them
have the
and see what
arc. You got
happens.
to have the arc, just like in basketball. You got to do that wrist thing.
Basketball is not one of my sports. I'm not good at basketball. I'm really
No,
not.
I'm like concrete.
And see, I was good at basketball when I was young because I was tall. Like, and early I was tall. So I would just stand on the rim, grab that ball, box out. It was great. Once people started catching up to me, sucked. Can't shoot.
Yeah.
Can't. I
Yeah.
mean, I can jump, but that's about it.
No, I will not go into that. I did gymnastics prior
What was
to
your specialty?
high
What
school.
was your specialty on the gymnastics circuit?
At the time, not crying. So just real quick, the place where I did gymnastics, the guy that ran it was like a what's the guy's name? Bella. What's the big gymnast guy's coach's name that God, I can't remember his name. He coached the women's gymnastics floor team for years.
The one who's in prison?
Yeah, that guy. So
Oh, okay. I don't know
this
his name,
guy
but I
at
know
this
he's in
place,
prison.
this guy at this place was just like that because his daughter was a gymnast there, and all he kept doing was yelling at her. And apparently, my young elementary school self didn't like him yelling, so I cried to my mother and asked her to take me out of gymnastics.
There you go.
So
I always like watching gymnastics. I gotta tell you, during the last Olympics, I was so hyped when I forget the dude's last name, but Steven, the dude on the specialty on the pommel horse.
I didn't really get back into sports until high school when I started playing football. So
There you go. We know your prowess on the football field, but now we like to take our talents to the microphones and to the cameras and
the gift
do
of
our
gab.
recordings and stuff.
That's
So
right.
back to podcast business. Even though my favorite part of every podcast is actually the first few minutes where we just bullshit, because I think it's the most fun. But Craig, what are you drinking tonight?
We're going back to old school. I mean, it's what I like. It's what I've been drinking, right? You could probably guess it. Go ahead and guess. You can guess the alcohol and the soda. Go ahead.
Crown for the alcohol,
Uh,
and it's either Coke or Dr. Pepper. I'm gonna go with Coke.
100% Coke and Crown.
There we go. There we go. Good one. Good one. I have me some blackberry Jack Daniels with
Oh,
some zero sugar lemonade and a touch of vanilla.
nice.
Sophisticated.
When I come to DJ's house, I know that he'll have a cabinet of liqueur. We come to
Oh,
my
there's a
house,
cabinet.
you get like Crown and whatever you want to dump in it.
Oh, there's a full cabinet down there, usually fully stocked. All the liquors of choice, except for gin. I have a singular bottle of gin in there because I don't drink gin. I don't like gin. But as a former bartender, I need to have all the bottles available to me at any given time. When somebody asks for a specialty beverage that involves gin, I have it. But I have not even cracked the bottle yet. I don't think anyone's ever cracked the bottle at my house because no one likes it.
Well, for anybody that wants to send us alcohol, just reach us out at fullofchipspodcast@gmail.com. I think Ian, when we interviewed him, had mentioned something about a 12-year scotch. I'm expecting that for Christmas, but I don't think he'll send it. But you can only hope. Ask for the moon. Then you get, what you can get. But always
Yeah,
ask for the moon.
get a little moon rock or something that they bought at
No,
like
no,
the gift shop
the
at some
phrase
store.
isn't for actually asking for the moon. It's asking for the moon because it's so far out of reach. You ask for the stuff that you know is out of reach because you know you're going to get the stuff that's within reach.
There you go. I mean, just life advice and wholesome moments with Craig. That's going to be a new segment on the podcast.
It sounds like we're playing mind games. That's what it sounds like.
It does sound like we're playing mind games, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Some mind games. And for the folks at home, before we get into the mind games, I'm going to tell you about a game that is being played, but it's not a game, and it's a game that you can guaranteed win. Is if you go over to the casinotiers.vegas website and you want to order any merch or dice from Casino Tiers, it's a guaranteed win because you will be getting 15% off your order by using the code FullofChips15. And it's on shirts, dice, whatever it may be. The only spot you can grab actual legitimate casino dice, unless you are a distributor, which most people are not. So if you want dice or some Casino Tiers merch, go over to casinotiers.vegas and guarantee yourself a win with 15% off using code FullofChips15. All right, Craig, back to the mind games now. The mind games,
The mind
whatever they
game?
may be called. Yeah. They scared me. I don't like those people. But that's a
Mind
topic for
scare
another
you?
day. They're just weird.
Just push
Open
them.
your mouth and say something.
Push them and they'll fall off a mountain. Just push them.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna have to do. I will say though, I mean, we're getting off topic here, but again, we like to tangent. Speaking of videos, you ever see the guy at like SeaWorld, the mime at SeaWorld who does like funny shit
Yeah.
with the people who are standing?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
guy's
yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. I like it when he'll steal something from somebody and put it on somebody else.
Yeah, I've been like doom scrolling his page like 3 a.m. sometimes, just like crying of laughter of what's going on. But
That's a whole nother book.
mind games.
DGen at 3 a.m.
That's a scary book. You don't want to see that book because it involves doom scrolling TikTok, Russian table tennis, cricket, and I don't know, some other weird sports that are going on. The Australian Soccer League, maybe. I don't know. Depends.
I don't know.
Whatever's on at 3 a.m. I mean, the choices are not very,
There's a lot of weird
very
shit on
many.
at
So
3 a.m.
yeah, there is. But you know some weird shit, and people like to think it's going on. Mind games, at the crash table.
Mind games at the craps table, like between players and dealers.
Yeah. Do you ever think there's some mind games going on?
I definitely think there are mind games going on between players and dealers. Set the stage. I mean, craps isn't just dice and math. It's a psychological game, isn't it? I mean, players come with where we all come to the casino with our superstitions and our rituals. Some people come with bravado. Some of us definitely come with fear, especially low bankrollers. But dealers come in with training, composure, right? They need to keep the game moving. So both sides are reading each other, and even when they pretend not to, it's a constant struggle. It's an unspoken struggle. So sometimes you don't even know it's happening, but it's happening.
Yep,
Um,
that's true.
let's start with the players. Like, what are some things that you think are some mind games that players dole out, even if it's towards dealers?
Well, I think, sometimes there's some pressures that are put on, right, between players. And then just the kind of the tone of people, right, at the table. Um, some people might be a don't player, right? Everybody instantly thinks the don't player is some kind of mind game, right? I'm trying to screw you over. That's not the case. Okay. Now, sometimes it may be the case, but that's a whole mind game in and of itself. If I'm playing the don't on you because you're an asshole, then that's a different story. But like if I'm going there and play the don't, it's just me doing it. Relax. Okay.
I think some people think that the don't player is some saboteur, just to ruin the light side's day. But
Yeah.
I think probably, I don't know, I'm just going to throw a number out there. Like 80% of don't players are like you, quiet. They literally will put their chips and buy in at the hook to specifically be right next to the don't come area and be quiet and not bother anybody and just happily collect their winnings when everybody else is losing, but nobody's saying anything, or speaking out loud. Then you have the
Yep.
don't players who have to be obnoxious assholes. And we already talked about don't be an asshole. Those are the 20% don't players who are calling for that seven. Their
Yep.
their their whole thing is to disrupt the table and to make an example of you who are trying to make points.
Yeah. And see, that's when, because I know some people take offense when we say, we love to snipe a don't player. Like, we don't love to snipe the 80% that are like nice. Now, I mean, am I going to actively say that I'm trying to make them win? No, unless I'm throwing, horns on the come out, then maybe. But not actively trying to destroy them. However, if you're going to be that other 20% and like be an asshole, then we are actively trying to snipe you. And like, that's what I am looking for. And it brings me so much joy when it happens because you were an asshole and now you're a broke asshole. So
But think about it. I mean, if you're focused and concentrating as a shooter, you're not paying attention to the don't player.
mm-mm.
You're not even paying attention to where they're making bets. You're concentrating on the dice in front of you. You're concentrating on probably your box bets, and that is all you care about. Even when you toss the dice, you're consciously not looking at the don't down on the other
Yeah.
end. You're just looking at your landing zone.
No, yeah, realistically, like I mean, if you're considering yourself a good shooter, like you should really only be focused on your bets, what's going on in front of you, what's in your control. You should not be worried about the guy who has a $420 six next to you. Like none of that stuff should be messing with you. The don't player at the other end of the table or the guy who's sitting next to you playing the don't, none of that stuff should really bother you or it shouldn't really affect what you're doing, right? You should be locked in on what you're doing, focusing on your toss, right? I know a lot of people who are practice shooters and stuff, they keep that same position, right? They focus in on what they can focus in on. For me, when I'm shooting, if a player places the don't, I don't care. Like I'm not focused on it. Now, if you start buying in and disrupting the role, then it starts to the one or two times I don't like I get annoyed, but it's fine. But then when it just keeps happening, then I start getting really annoyed. And then when you start buying in with like tens and fives, then I get really, really pissed off. That's beside the point. My main point with all of that is just like you should focus on what is in front of you, what you can control, and you shouldn't be worrying about anything else that's going on when you're the shooter. You can worry about all that shit when you're not the one shooting. When you're the one shooting, you should be dialed in, focused, and nothing should be able to break that concentration of yours other than maybe a handful of things that are going to get under your skin. But like the don't player shouldn't be that one. The guy who has a huge bet next to you shouldn't be the one that's getting under your skin. It could be something else, but you need to be locked in on what you're doing.
And you hit the nail on the head with the don't player. As far as like a player mind game, they're really like a silent assassin, the 80%, because they're calmly making bets. Maybe they're reading the table better than you, and you're the shooter, and you're not reading the table right, or maybe you should have passed the dice. But they're just silently making their bets, collecting on their wins, or they're also getting a little bit, sniped on the box bets as you're making your points. But it's those don't players that have to make a statement when they get to the table, and they have to tell everybody, like, there's no reason, and sometimes the worst is when they're not drunk and they're specifically just being an asshole and saying out loud, "Oh, here we go, 1,000 on the don't, let's go, 777." You're like, that's the thing that fuels me as a shooter. Like, watch me make a point, motherfucker. Like, here I
Yeah,
go.
literally.
Like, I'm not gonna let your
Literally.
mind game fuck up my mind game.
No,
Um,
you can't get involved in that because once you start playing those mind games, the only thing that's really going to affect is your mood and your bankroll, right? Most people who are playing mind games are not winning. Let's be honest, right? There's a handful of people who may have gotten lucky at times and they're winning when they're playing those mind games. But if you're more focused on playing that mind game with somebody at the table or even with a dealer at the table, it's going to affect how you play. It's going to affect how you bet and it's probably going to have a negative effect, not a positive effect.
you're right, and there are other types of people who play their mind games, like the chip splash power move. If you're on a $10 table and somebody's trying to make a subtle flex move to look like a high roller, you're like, dude, you're on a $10 table, like, tone it down.
Yeah. Yeah. You get those people though sometimes who just come in and like, splashing chips here or like the one that bothers me too when I'm shooting sometimes, which it shouldn't, but it does occasionally, is all the center action bets that are late, that bothers me. But then when you're throwing in like dollar chips for $10 in total bets, and you have just a wad of $1 chips getting chucked in the middle, and it's like helicopters just everywhere, throw them 2 5s. Like, what are you doing?
Like literally when the stick person has their hand out, like try to do your best to throw them into their hand. Like they don't
Yeah.
put their hand out so that you can just splash over all of the prop section and just have them go every fucking where they're rolling behind the chip stacks. They're rolling towards the pit boss. Like that's not needed.
No, it's not. It's just like buckshot spewed everywhere. Like, just stop. Like, what are you doing? But I mean, it's part of the mind games, though. People like to do it. They think it. Sometimes it goes the reverse way too, right? They're not actually intentionally trying to screw with the shooter, they're trying to screw with the dealers.
Yeah. I mean, the only other people I can think of uh, that try to play mind games at table are either people that have to explain the math to hide their nerves. Chris is already rolling his eyes because he knows it's usually the person that's right next to you that wants to do that. And
Yeah,
then from across in the hook, like if you're on the other side of the table and you're the one shooting, you always get that "don't talk to me" glare from the hook. That's usually the superstition that the guy doesn't want to hear jinxing words or anything like that on a roll. And if somebody says something, they gotta like here we go, here we go. Like shut up, like shut
yeah.
up. Like, I don't get this is what bothers me probably. It's probably under pet peeves too, but it bothers me at the craps table is aren't we all here to win money from the casino? Like why is anybody ever causing anything of like whether it's a shit thing with the dealer or arguing with another player or just playing these stupid mind games like aren't we all here to do the same thing? Take those chips and leave dust balls behind it? Like I don't get it.
Should be
But
the
that's the
goal.
way that people want to do. You can't
Yeah, I
control
don't know.
the kind of people that show up at the table.
That's the thing. And like, I feel like craps is one of those games where you have a lot of those people. Like, I don't know. Like, I played a lot of blackjack. It doesn't happen. Like, yeah, you get people questioning like decisions you make, but it's not like it is at the craps table. The craps table is just another beast, and like you don't see it like playing roulette and other stuff. Like, it doesn't happen. But like with blackjack, every once in a while you get a person like, "Why did you do that?" Or, "Oh, you should have done this. The book says to do this. Take the book and shove it up your ass." That's what I tell them. But with the craps table, I mean, there's so many things that go on at the table and so many different facets that can go into things. It's crazy. Like, I feel like that's the game where, the mind games really actually happen, and they really have an impact on the players and those at the table, because you don't see it really in any other game. At least I don't see it.
You're right. And I think that can go into the dealer mind games, which some people would say could also be a fallacy of itself. But I've seen dealers who their sole purpose is to get you to lose your money. Like you see it all the time now at my local, the pit bosses are there's this one dealer who every time he's the pit boss guy, because it rotates, and the night where he was a pit boss, he's like, "Hey man, you got a pass line. Where are your odds? Go put those odds back there. Make sure you put those odds back there. I don't see odds. Stop. Like stop."
Yeah.
Like you and I have already talked about sometimes we want to shoot and we have to put the pass line down because you're making us because it's a contract bet. But odds aren't a contract bet, and we just have to do it in order for us to shoot, and we want to shoot. Like that's the only reason. But there are many things that dealers do that maybe the players perceive as mind games, but they're not really mind games. Like speeding up or slowing down the game to keep control. I think there's always the good dealer who does that "are you sure" pause, that gentle nudge that makes players second guess. Are you sure you want to do that? Because I've had dealers do that before, like, and sometimes it's because maybe you meant to do like a C&E and you accidentally asked for a hard way.
Yeah.
But the whole thing about dealers is over the session, they're trying to recognize your pattern of betting. And so they will be helpful. And if you've been betting C&E all night and all of a sudden you bet something outside of that, they are going to kind of like, nudge to you, "Hey, did you mean a C&E? Because you've been doing it all night, but I don't think necessarily that's the kind of mind games we're talking about. I mean, what do you
Yeah.
think about dealer mind games?
No, I think you're spot on. The dealers, for people who think they do, they don't. Like, they don't control outcomes in the game. They really don't. The dice control the outcome, right? Like the dealers aren't the ones who make the dice turn to a 7 or turn to a frontline winner or whatever it is. Dealers don't control any of that shit, but they do control the tone at the table, right? Like, I mean, when we had Lou on, right, he was talking about, this stick guy going in front of him and doing stuff. Like, that's a direct mind game by the dealer or a direct action by the dealer, right? You'll have some dealers who, like, when we're playing, some dealers are more talkative than others. Some players are more talkative than others, right? But like, there's some dealers who don't shut up, even when
Yeah.
you ask them to like
Shut
stop.
up.
They just keep going, and like they're having a full conversation across all the dealers. Like, that's great and wonderful. If you guys want to talk so much, how about you guys go to a bar after your shift and chit chat there? And like that kind of stuff doesn't bother me, but it'll bother some people. And it's not even that they're having a conversation. I guess it's what they're conversing about. That's what usually gets people more annoyed than the fact that they're actually having a conversation. Or in the instance where, like, you've asked them, all right, stop with the stuff, like, stop it. And they just keep doing it. Like, there's some dealers who like to play all the games with their hands, right? And they're like, doing all the chip stuff and flicking chips and doing all this shit. Like, if I ask you to stop that as a dealer, I expect you to stop that. Now, I won't be the one to ask you because I don't really care. I don't give a shit, to be honest with you. But there's people who do care. And if you're on my side of the table and you ask a dealer to do that and they don't stop, I will say something. But it's just a matter of, like, they don't control the outcomes, but they can certainly have a huge impact on the vibe and the tone of the table.
It's true, because I've been a shooter at the local, and right when I get the dice, that's when the stick and the pit boss want to have an argument.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a definite mind game. And then, like you were talking about, and we've seen this at Atlantic City and Harrah's, where the dealers are doing this, or they're playing with their chip stacks, or they just start talking nonsensical about daily crap that has nothing to do with the session. Like, at
Yeah.
least if you're gonna jibber jab while I'm shooting, talk about craps or talk about the game that we're playing. Don't start talking about nonchalant jibber jabber fuck shit, because all
Yeah.
you're doing, and you're doing it, is you're fucking with my focus. But then, there are some people in the craps community who will say, well, you need to take a step back from the table then. Okay, but every time I step up to the dice, the chatter starts. Tell me they're not playing mind games.
Yeah, they are. It's a psychological thing, all of it. That's what it is. And, I mean, there's definitely the relation, like the player dealer mind games, the player player mind games. And, unfortunately, if you want to play the game, you're going to have to deal with them. And it is what it is. You could ask nicely for that kind of stuff to stop. But ultimately, you have to be able to either block it out or be disciplined enough to not shoot
No, I mean,
and don't let it affect you.
a lot of the dealer stuff, it's not mind games. It's just their job. It's their job to
Yeah.
gather all the chips after 7 rolls. Like, just let them do it. There's nothing needs to be said. Like, you lost the bet. It is what it is. You have to know going in that you're going to lose some during some of the shooters. Like, don't get angry at the dealer because you lost the bet. But, like, that's just starting a mind game of your own between you and the dealer that doesn't really need to exist.
Yep.
But,
It's like literally that's their job. Like that's what they're doing. They're there to do their job. And like I said, if they're gonna talk, like, do you not talk at work? Like, you sit there by yourself at work and just like is that
Some
what you
people
do
do.
all day?
Some people do.
But like, yeah. So like, I mean, and you can't like make somebody have a bad experience at their job because you don't want to hear them talk, which is fine if that's the case. But like, then just know that you shouldn't be playing with certain dealers because some dealers don't shut up ever. They just keep talking
But I also think, like, players misread, dealer neutrality.
all the
They're
time.
like, it's you got to realize it's their job. Like, that's why they're there. They're there to push the chips, push the dice, collect the
Yeah.
chips, pay out chips. Like, that's the job.
And they want to see you do well for the most part, right?
Right.
Because
For the most
here's the
part,
thing.
dealers want to manage the table energy, but they like good energy too.
Well, and they want tips. That's how they get paid more than, their salary that they get from the casino, right? And who's tipping on a shitty table? Not many people, right?
No.
I mean, we still are, right? But like most people are not tipping on a bad table or a vibeless table. When the energy's high, when the table's going well, that's when people are tipping. So that's what the dealers want to see. They don't want to sit there and be like at a cemetery basically when they're playing the craps table because they're not going to see any tips and it's going to be a long session for them and they're going to be bored out of their mind and know that they're not getting any money.
Well, and then from the player's side, superstition is always going to clash with probability, and ego, fear, and excitement are always going to shape decisions. And responsible gambling fits into the psychological landscape, and I think that goes into our second topic tonight, Chris, which is the psychology of risk. This is the risk of gambling, right? And the psychology explains why it feels so irresistible and why it can become dangerous. So let's talk about why the brain loves uncertainty and why it sometimes can't walk away. Um, we all know why we like to, some of us we know why we like to play, but some of us play because, I'm not saying Chris and I, but some of us play because we have to play. Um, you can't get it out of your system, right? Um,
Yeah.
I think what we're getting to is that taste of the dopamine loop, that anticipation versus winning. And I think, like I told you offline, I like the anticipation of Christmas more than I like Christmas Day. I think the same thing holds true here. Sometimes we like the anticipation of the session we're about to play than actually winning. But I know that there's certain people like, well, that's just crap because winning is why I'm here. Yeah, but it's the anticipation of you're making that bet in hopes of something happening. And that's where the
Yep.
dopamine hits you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely exciting. And if you are a gambler who needs that itch and that rush of gambling, you should probably go down to the description and go check out the gambling hotline number. Be a good resource for you. But yeah, for the most of us who don't need it, but we enjoy the rush and that anticipation, it's certainly true, right? That suspense, like that's what people that's why they do it, right? The illusion of they're in control of something, right? The allure of potentially winning, and then the anticipation of how to get to that winning spot, right? Like, sure, do we all want to sit at the table for a long roll on the craps table? Of course. Do we all want to have a 10-win streak on blackjack? Of course. That's why you're playing, right?
I
You don't
I
go
think
again.
one of the things is, this is why near misses feel almost like wins, but at the same time, it's why people chase losses, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's a big problem too with the chasing losses because like you also get that, I'm due feeling sometimes for some people. And you're again, we've said it before on the podcast. I'll continue to say it. You're never due. Nothing is ever due. All right. Again, the only thing that's ever due is your bills, your rent payment, your mortgage payment, your electric bill, your water bill. Those things are due. Okay. You for a win at the casino, not due. But like you said, right, with chasing losses, very, very common thing. And that's also what leads to some of the, endorphins getting released and that anticipation of what's going to happen, right? Because how do most people chase losses? They risk more than they were before, right? So instantly you're risking more, your emotions are way higher, and then the loss feels really bad. And then when you win, you're like, oh great. And then you just want to go do it again and again and again. And we both know that when you get in that mindset of, oh, well, it worked, it's gonna continue to work, probably won't, be honest with you. But
Well, it's that
I guess you can find
anticipation
that
of a
out.
reward and not the reward itself, right?
Yep.
It triggers that surge of dopamine. That means the moment before the slot stops or the dealer flips the card that you need is the real hook.
Yeah.
It's that anticipation, and it can be powerful, but it can also be dangerous because, like you just said, you have those people who we know that they go to the casino with their paychecks
Mm-hmm.
and they're down to their last whatever, and they think this is the time, and they're all amped up. And what happens? Seven rolls, you know?
The other thing with it too, like with the psychology, and you have to be, strong-minded in yourself and how you play, right? Where like you don't let other people at the table affect kind of how you're feeling on your wins and stuff, because there's always going to be somebody at the table who bets more than you, right? For most people. Now there's a handful of people that, you'll always be the biggest fish in the pond and you'll always be the one betting the most money, right? Good for you. But there's always going to be people who are betting less than somebody else at the table, and you start seeing them pull in wins, right? And then you want to make bigger bets because you see them doing it. But how much do they buy in with, right? You don't know their financial circumstances. They may have, millions upon millions of dollars just sitting there and they're just screwing around for fun. Meanwhile, you actually have your paycheck on the table and like you need to win. Them, they're just having a good time. They don't care.
But at the same time, like the human body, we're wired to find unpredictable, rewards more stimulating than the predictable ones. Um,
Yeah.
it's the same mechanism behind social media notifications. And when you're playing video game loot boxes, like it's these little things that just shoot that dopamine up, and you just get all excited, and you're like, well, "Here we go," and then it doesn't happen.
Yep.
It almost leads into maybe some biases at the table. Um, you already talked about the gambler's fallacy of I'm due for the win. It's that illusion of control, right? Feeling
Yeah.
like skill influences chance-based outcomes. This is a chance-based game. Craps, it's variance, it's chance, it's luck. We'll get into that some other time, but I had to say that. But
Where was I?
you do remember your wins more vividly than your losses, but that's an availability bias. There are other biases like the hot hand fallacy, believing streaks are meaningful. Some of us believe that. I mean, some of us like there is such a thing I think as momentum. If it happens in sports, why can't it happen at the craps table? Um, you know, we've all been through strings of shooters where half the table PSOs. So you're thinking, oh, well, once the dice get to the other half of the table, it ought to pick up. And it doesn't. You just have to recognize
Nope.
it's a bad table, but you should have recognized it three PSOs ago and either
Yeah.
stop playing or change the way you bet.
Exactly. And again, though, that's goes back to the risk piece of things too, right? Like if you are more risk adverse, you're not going to change what you're doing because you get in that I'm due phase and you're not due. And if your risk appetite is higher, then again, your psychology and like how you focus on things is going to be a little bit different than if you're less risk adverse.
Well, it's that mix that makes the risk feel meaningful, not just
Yep.
mathematical. I mean, it's the excitement, the escapism, the social benefits, the identity. I'm a poker guy or I'm a slot girl. Like the only other thing I can think of is hope, hope at the
Yeah.
table, but that doesn't work out more often than you think it does. Um,
Nah, if you're a hopeful person at the tables, good luck. Like, again, the casinos aren't built on hope, right? And yes, you can hope you have a good session, but you can't sit there and hope that this is rolled. And you, like, I guess in theory, you can hope that a number is rolled, but you can't hope that number into rolling.
right. I think, what's interesting is we know that from another episode we had, we know that gambling addiction is real, right?
Yep.
But you know, I just learned this that gambling hooks you faster than other addictions. Um,
Oh, yeah.
in fact, research suggests that gambling can hook the brain faster than substance addictions, which I was like, really? What? But it's true. And then you got to be careful.
Yeah. I mean, think about it though, right? How many times have you heard, a story of somebody who started gambling by winning, right? Is it beginner's luck? Maybe. Were you just in the right place at the right time? Sure, right? But most people start out gambling by winning. Why? Because they are going in with very little expectations. They usually win a little bit. Some people hit big on their first one, sure. But, they win a little bit and they're happy, right?
Right.
And they think, oh, this is easy. I can do this all the time. Then reality sets in and you're like, shit, this is hard. And I don't win all the time.
Well, I don't know why I raised my hand because I did lose the first time out. It's been documented on my YouTube channel. It's been documented here on the podcast. It was
Yep.
the second time I played that I won, and then I won the next day, and then the next day, and that's when I went home and thought, oh, I can just do it anytime I want. Uh, but the risk perception was personal for me. Um, but it didn't pan out. I can tell you that. I don't think I won again for a few months.
Yeah. And again, mentally, you have to be strong to deal with that kind of stuff. Because if you're not, you can go down a dark hole really, really quick. Again, if you do, the number down in the comments or the description, you got to call it. They will help you. But you got to have a strong mental focus, strong mental fortitude if you want to be a gambler. And I certainly do, believe that gambling can hook you a lot quicker than substances and stuff for the sole purpose that when you are hooked on a substance, typically, right, it's you're some kind of feeling that you're after, right? Well, when you're gambling, you get that feeling plus the potential to win money. Put those two together, and there you go. People want it.
Well, that's why you see people at the casinos with playing with their paycheck when they know they shouldn't
Yep.
be, but they're doing it because they're trying to scratch that itch that they can't scratch. Um, no matter how much they bring to the casino, like they're not recognizing table conditions, they're not recognizing what's happening at the casino, and they're not leaving when they should. They're lacking discipline. But I
Yep.
think knowing your risk profile, like knowing how you want to risk your money, is going to create your gambling behavior. Um, and if you can learn discipline, which Full of Chips here, we are 100% behind. Probably discipline is the number one thing you should learn. It's going to save you a
Yep.
lot of money, guarantee that. Without discipline, you're just going to be a lifetime loser. Even though the math is going to tell you you're a lifetime loser, but they're two different statements, and they mean two different
Yeah.
things.
100%.
But what can you do, Chris, to make sure that you have a good gambling behavior? I think you might need a gambler's toolkit.
You might need a gambler's toolkit, which may be coming soon.
We should probably come out with the Full of Chips gambler's toolkit.
So we probably should do that. We probably should do that.
Something you could probably
But
fit in your pocket or something.
like little book that just I pop it right in here and
Yeah,
pull
you
it
just
out.
check it out, look at it, you're like, oh, that's what I do when that. Okay, take it back
Yeah.
in.
Yep. No, that could be very useful. And we will get into maybe a few reasons why that is important. But first, we need to find out some important things that go along with discipline and the pillars of the psychology behind the way a certain somebody plays blackjack. It's time for the Blackjack Brief.
Time for the Blackjack Brief. All right, so you mentioned about we talked about practicing, and that's definitely part of the blackjack mindset that you have to have. There are other key pillars, and we've seen this in craps. Everybody who knows anybody in the craps community knows John Patrick and his four horsemen of bankroll, knowledge, money management, and discipline. These are the same similar things you got to have in blackjack, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. The main three things probably you got to be patient, you have to be disciplined, and you have to have a reasonable bankroll. And then probably a fourth one, you have to have reasonable expectations. I mean, most people just sit down and go, "Hey, I expect to win." Well, the odds are you're going to lose. I mean, it's almost guaranteed over time you're going to lose. But if the way I've developed the strategy that I use, it's consistently winning. Not gonna win all the time, but again, pretty much everything that you would do at home, I practice at home. I play many shoes, and I win. I mean, I record all of them, and um, we'll continue to do that. I mean, it's therapy at times. I mean, I'm just sitting there watching TV. I can play a shoe in 15, 20 minutes. Anybody can do what I do. Do it with some practice, and and it's a whole lot easier. And that's the whole thing for um, COVID time. After I learned it, I just want to help people have a chance. Because right now when they walk in, most of them don't have a chance.
So why are these important? Why are these key pillars important? To have
Well,
patience, discipline, a proper bankroll.
well, if you're automatically going to lose if you don't have those. I mean, this game happens fast. A lot of I'm going to say smaller players, more inexperienced players are playing $20 a hand, $25 a hand, $30 a hand. And everybody wants to worry about getting comps. Most of the time, you're going to get comps if you're playing $50 a hand. They'll give you dinner. Depending on where the hotels are, a room that they charge $100 a night or $50 a night. They'll give those away all the time. So trying to play above your head, even though if I was playing $50 a hand or 500 a hand or 5,000 a hand or 25,000 a hand, I'm going to make the same exact decision. It will not change. Now, back in the day, if I was playing normally several $100s a hand and I was only playing 50. Well, let's try it this way. I'd go against the book. I'd go against my own book. And amazingly, how many times I lose over and over and over. I mean, so, getting aggressive, so going back to patience, they want you to get aggressive. Hey, I just lost 4 or 5. I can't lose the next one. Yes, you can. I can't lose the next one. Yes, you can. I can't lose the next one. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
So,
That's a common theme people have, unfortunately, where and we see it in a lot of different games, right? But I think blackjack is probably the most common one where you have, let's say a small losing streak, 3, 4 hands, and I can't possibly lose 5. So you get your bets a little bit bigger, and then you lose that one. Boom, here we go. I can't lose 6. Bet gets bigger. Nope, lost that one. And it keeps happening. And the next thing you know, you have no money left in front of you. Why? Because you don't have bankroll management, you don't have discipline and patience, right? You don't have the patience to wait until you start winning again.
And I wanted to follow up with you, Bruce, on that because what you're talking about are players who are making the game personal. And I imagine that you're very systematic with the way you play. And being disciplined and being systematic in the way you play, how do you stay composed and unemotional?
well, and I think I've heard you guys talk about this in the past in some of your podcasts. You have to have a game plan and you got to have a goal.
Right.
Most people, well, I'm just going to play. Well, I mean, how many times, and we've all done it. Hey, we get up, we started with a bankroll of $500. We're up to 1,000. So we made 500, 100% profit. You should walk away. That's a great, day's work. No, I want to play a little bit longer. And then the next thing you know, you're back to even. You say, okay, now I got to get back up to 500. The next thing you know, you're down 500. Then you got to go home. Happens all the time. Anything that I've talked about, I've already done many, many, many times. So again, we talked about the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. At some point, if you're not going to have a game plan, which is I already know exactly what I'm going to do when I sit down. I know who I'm going to do it with. I mean, as we move along and show people how to play, you can negotiate. Anything is negotiable in a casino. Now, it's easier for me at a higher level, but even with that, there's certain places I don't want to play. If I don't think it's a fair game, and I can define what a fair game is, 3-2, various other, the 3-2 being the biggest one, or the ability to reshuffle. There's just certain things that every casino in the country is different. So when I get my own private table, more times than not, we have an agreement, whatever that is. They have other agreements with other players. And so you play to whatever your agreement is.
You had mentioned earlier about playing, $20, $50 a hand, $100 a hand, $500 a hand, 1,000, 25,000. I think that's one of the points we try to get across in some other episodes is if you know how you're playing your game and you have a plan and you know what you're doing with how you want to bet, how you want to play the game, it's just a matter of different units. That's all it is. Doesn't matter what unit you're playing, you play the same way regardless. And would you agree with that?
If you're absolutely, and that's where the discipline comes in, is when you go, hey, you lose 3 or 4 in a row at $50, and you say, okay, now I'm going to bet $100, or I'm going to bet $200 to get it back, and then the next thing you know, you're down $500. When if you'd been patient, you would have only lost. I mean, you're still going to lose, but I'd rather lose 100 playing a certain way than lose 500 because it's a whole lot harder to win the 500 back. It's almost impossible to win it back for most players. I mean, and if you rely on luck, I mean, I mean, you have to have some luck. I mean, there's no question about that.
Sure.
But for the most part, you just got to understand what are the possibilities that are going to happen, and then hope that more times than not, the results that you get at home and that you've gotten at other times, if you're playing discipline or if you're watching others, because if you watch me play, you can do exactly what I do. And that's
Right.
what that's my biggest goal, through all this is trying to show people how to win, and then help support them in their quest, to be successful. If you if you're just doing this for recreation, okay, all bets are off. Do whatever you want to do. If you actually, we joke at times, and I think I wrote in the book, a game that has no employees, no receivables, and no inventory. You would love to have a business that way, and that's what this business is. I mean, I've owned a lot of small businesses, and you know, labor is the toughest part. And so when you don't have labor issues, then it's just a matter of uh, dealing the cards and getting a result.
So as we talk about the final part of the mindset, you just mentioned with your businesses, and I imagine the way you run your businesses is the same way you probably play blackjack. It's very systematic. It's very, how do you balance risk versus reward?
Experience. I mean, again, just like playing cards, you just do it long enough, and be able. I mean, documentation is very important to remember how things evolved.
So I quickly want to touch on one thing that you said there with the experience, right? And this is something that, we've talked about multiple times, but experience is one of the biggest and greatest wealths of knowledge that you can gain in gambling and in playing all of the games, regardless of which game you play. But the ability to rely on that experience and look back at that experience, right? Like, I'm sure when you first started playing, you made decisions that founded the decisions you make today. And you may say, I know now what not to do, right? But how do you know what not to do? Because of the experience of what you learned previously, what you continue to learn, right? And one of my favorite sayings is, like when you're not evolving and when you don't continue to learn, that becomes a problem, right? So you got to constantly keep learning, and even by practicing, right? You practice, as you said, you're practicing, you're dealing shoes even while you're watching TV. You're learning things there and you're absorbing that information and that knowledge, and that all gets factored into gameplay, and it's things that you can draw from in your memory bank that, oh, I've seen this before, right? Like you said, we've all seen dealer has a 2 up, flips a 10, and boom, 9, dealer pulls 21, and everybody at the table loses, right? You've seen that before. We've all seen that before. And the more you see things and the more you learn from those kind of aspects, then you can relate that in your gameplay. It can add to your discipline, and it can help you with the emotional aspect, the patience aspect, all that kind of stuff. So I really like how you said the experience factor in there, because that's something that I think not enough people in gambling in general rely on when they are playing, because they're just there for reason X, Y, or Z, and they're not really treating it as a serious game and a serious way to potentially make money and use it almost as a business.
Well,
Experience has to
I've
be
heard,
part of your toolkit, wouldn't you say, Bruce?
well, I was just thinking about something I heard on y'all's podcast last episode or two, and Craig, I think maybe it was you, talking about playing at blackjack and having a fast dealer, just slamming cards down. Well, guess what? That you have believe it or not, I can tell you right now, you have all the control over that dealer. You right now. Now you're intimidated because you're not familiar with the surroundings totally.
Right.
But a fast dealer, until you make a decision, they can't do anything. So they can go. I mean, you can have 3 or 4 people, at a table, slam, 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 slam. Okay, when they get to you, they can't slam until you give them a signal. If you don't give them a signal, there's not a damn thing they can do. Period. And that takes experience. That takes some um, maturity to understand. Yeah, normally we all get a little bit more mature as we get older, and that's one of the, yeah. I have another saying that I've used in my business career many, many times. I know things you don't know. When somebody comes up to me, they have this great idea. Well, I said, well, we had that great idea about 10 times in the last 15 years, and it sounds great on paper, but as soon as you do it, you're going to get somebody knocking on your door really ticked off, because there's something else that happens that you don't realize. So, and I think another one of y'all's things where I've heard, you know, experience is costly. Well, I say the school of hard knocks is very costly.
Yep.
So trying to make sure that okay, hey, well, I made a mistake, big deal. Well, okay, they're costly. So hopefully,
Yeah.
my whole thing is to have go back to my plan, understand what's going to happen. Not be intimidated because it's very intimidating. You're sitting in, you got the pit balls, you got dealers, you got players. Players are, if you're playing with others, they're hey, let's go, let's go, let's go. They're talking about everything under the sun. And that just drives me crazy. I mean, I can look at the cards. I mean, and know what I'm going to do, all the time. But I'm not in a. You can't be in a hurry. I mean, that's a major, another major thought. Don't be in a hurry. Because they're going to make you make a mistake. They want you to make a mistake, or again, another segment as time goes on. I love it when I see podcast or not podcasts, but reels where people have martinis at the table, and they're I'm going, what is, every time I see it, it's just I use the word immature or infantile. One, you're gonna spill on the table, and that really screws up the game when it's on the felt, and they got to clean it all up. And two, if you don't have full faculties, don't play this game. Period. There's plenty of time to. I mean, I love to have a drink as much as anybody, but at the same time, I won't do it ever when I'm playing.
No, it's business
I
like
have
for
that
you.
same exact rule. Yep. I
Yeah.
do not drink when I'm playing. Doesn't matter what the game is. I'll drink afterwards, anything. But if I know that I'm playing, I will not drink before, during. Like if I'm playing in midday and like we go out to dinner and I know I'm playing after, don't drink. Drink after. And once I start drinking, there's no more gambling sessions. I'm done for the night. I'll see you back there tomorrow.
Right. Right. Yep. So
All right, very interesting blackjack brief there with Bruce. We talked a lot about the things that go into being a gambler and having, mindset, discipline, bankroll management, all that kind of stuff. And got some good insight into that. Again, there's gonna be more coming with the blackjack brief. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying it. And if you have questions or anything about the blackjack brief or questions for Bruce or anything, drop them down in the comments, and we will be sure to circulate those his way. But prior to the blackjack brief, we were talking about the gambler's toolkit. And Craig, I think it's time to talk a little bit more about that gambler's toolkit and get into our top 5 list onto why a gambler's toolkit is important to keep on you.
I think that's an excellent idea. Top of the top 5.
All right, Craig, number 5.
All right, number 5 for me is it keeps your brain in charge, not the casino. We just got done talking about you're going to have create your own gambling behavior. You've got to be the one in charge. You've got to be the one in control of your money. You can't let the casino be in control of your money. Casinos are engineered to hijack attention, right? And nudge those impulses that you have. The toolkit will act like a portable reset button, reminding you of your limits, your goals, and your strategy before the environment sweeps you away.
There you go. I like that one. I like that one. Number 5 for me is it's going to turn you into it's going to turn you away from being a novice, recreational, casual type of gambler and turn you more into a long-term player with goals and sort of aspirations, right? Anybody can go gamble and play a session or two, but if you want to be a disciplined gambler, you're looking to do it for a longer period of time, right? So it'll help you maybe survive cold tables on the craps table, survive bad shoes playing blackjack, but it's going to be kind of learned through what your experiences are and things along those lines. But it'll help you to focus more on the long term and sort of, let's say, career aspect of things, as opposed to just being the casual, willy nilly recreational folk who's just throwing money around and hoping it sticks like one of those darts.
Suction darts.
Suction darts, baby. All right, Craig, number 4.
All right, number 4 is something I wish I was given, like a gambler's toolkit card. right as I left the casino the first time I came from Vegas. Like right when I got on the airplane, they're like, here you go. And that's turning discipline into a habit. When the rules and reminders live only in your head, they're easy to ignore. Trust me, it's a fact. When they're printed, clipped, or tucked into your pocket, like we talked about, they become physical commitments. You're more likely to follow a rule you can literally hold in your hand.
Yep, that's true. All right, number 4 for me is it helps remove emotions from things, right? So most people who are like seasoned gamblers remove emotion from anything, right? Their decisions aren't based on emotion, especially when they're gambling. And that'll help you be a better long-term gambler, but also help you be a more successful gambler, because if you're sitting there basing your decisions on emotions, you're usually not going to make good decisions. And you want to be able to execute things, not react to things, right? Yes, you're going to have to react to things that are going on at the tables, but you want that reaction to be something that you're just deviating to something else, right? You don't want to be like, oh shit, and then like deer in headlights trying to figure out what do I do. You kind of want to know what to do already, and you're going to lose, right? Everyone's going to lose at some point. You're going to lose probably more often than you're going to win. Hopefully you win more than you lose, but it's gambling, right? Knowing that emotionally you're there, you know that losses happen and you can kind of move on from them quickly and then get back up on the horse, as they say, and, get back to your winning ways.
That's a good one. I should have put that on my list, and I didn't. I missed putting emotion. All right, number 3. It helps you recover quickly after a bad beat. We've all had bad beats. Tilt happens, right? Toolkit gives you structured ways to pause, breathe, reset, and avoid chasing losses. We say it all the time. Don't chase losses. It only takes you down a rabbit hole you're never going to recover from. It's like having a coach whisper, we're not doing that today. Remember? So, there you go.
I like it. I like it so much that I have the same thing. I titled my number 3 differently, but the supporting points for number 3 are exactly the same. Shocker that that happens on our top 5 list. I don't think we've had a top 5 yet where we haven't overlapped something, but the toolkit will slow down the game for you, right? Casinos thrive on speed and fast-paced games and constant movement of things, right? So if you had like a little toolkit or a little card or something on you, it's going to create that pause, right? You're going to have to pull that out, right? It breaks up whatever momentum's going on, and it also makes you make a conscious decision, right? You made the decision to pull that card out or take a look at the card on your phone or whatever it is. So you had to make a decision there, which may help you back into a decision making mindset as opposed to just kind of being all haphazard. You're actually back to making concrete decisions. So it'll slow down the game and hopefully get you set back in the right head frame.
Well, we talked about that in another episode. Remember, we were talking about uh, if you're having trouble focusing on shooting, stop, put the dice in front of you, take a step back, refocus yourself, reapproach the dice, or ask the stick to bring the dice to you again and reset. That's a good point.
All right, number 2.
All right, number 2, the Gambler's Toolkit reinforces your identity as a smart, intentional player. Carrying the toolkit signals to yourself, most of all, that you're not here to game recklessly, right? You're not here just to throw your money at the casino and say, bye, had a good time. I just wanted to throw my chips just to you and not really take any home with me. I guess you don't want to be full of chips that day. But, you're here to play with purpose. Identity shift alone changes decisions, outcomes, and confidence.
There you go. I like it. My number 2 is it will help keep you consistent. Consistency is going to be your friend when you are gambling, especially for long periods of time or over a duration of a long amount of time. It'll help you stick to maybe well-practiced systems that you may be familiar with. You have maybe your press regress type stuff on there. It'll avoid, any prop bets if you know not to play those. Like, it'll keep you consistent on what you should be doing. And then when you are gambling, right, your best friend at the table is going to be consistency. The whole creativity bullshit where, oh, let's get frisky and do this, probably not going to work for you. So consistency is going to be your friend, and then again, consistency always goes back to being disciplined. So it'll help you be consistent. All right, Craig. Number one reason.
Number one reason for me to have a gambler toolkit is that it makes every session more enjoyable. You talked about it before about you should be enjoying yourself when you're at the casino and not stressing yourself at the casino. So it makes you feel prepared, so you relax. When you relax, you make better decisions. When you make better decisions, you have more fun. So the toolkit doesn't just protect you, it enhances the whole experience.
There you go. I
Deep
like that
cut.
one. Deep cuts. I was going to go with that, but then I was like, you know what? I'm going to relate my number one to this entire episode. So my number one reason is it protects you from yourself, right? When you're at the casino, what's your biggest threat? It's not the casino. It's you, yourself, your emotions, all that kind of stuff, right? So if you know your bankroll limits or you have them written down, you have your betting plans written down, your goals written down, all that kind of stuff, it'll stop you from chasing losses, maybe, trying to fall into that hot shooter fallacy. And when, your emotions take over and that adrenaline's pumping and that those endorphins are kicking, right? That's not when you want to be deciding, oh, what should I be doing here? Like, what should I do? Hopefully that toolkit will help you get back into your normal mind frame and do the proper thinking if it doesn't do the thinking for you, and turn that switch off. Because we talked about the mind games, the psychology, all that kind of stuff. That's you, yourself, and you again, right? So it protects you from that.
I love that because you know what you could put in your gambling toolkit? You could actually write down your bet progressions. So you don't
Yep.
have to remember them all the time. You know them, but you should also be practicing your bet progressions. And when you practice your bet progressions, it becomes mechanic. It becomes automatic at the casino table, at the craps table, and you're just telling the dealers you know right where to go. You don't even have to look at them. You're like up unit or power press. You know what you want to do because you've practiced it, and maybe you have it written down in your little gambler's toolkit card. That'll help
Yep.
you out. But that's a good one. That was a good one.
Certainly will. Those are great top five lists. A lot of good nuggets of information there for the toolkit that may be coming shortly. Well, maybe hint there. We'll see. We'll see. Just stay tuned. Stay tuned, folks. All right, Craig. Our tip of the episode. What is our tip of the episode?
So this one came to me like Chris has talked about before. He gets his ideas sometimes in the shower. This one came to me in the shower. So I was thinking about craps. I was thinking about throwing dice, and I was like, tip of the episode: pass the dice when your ego tells you to shoot. Now I'll explain. When you're at the craps table and that little voice in your head says, "Come on, you've got this. Take the dice." That's exactly when you should pause. Ego loves to masquerade intuition. So it whispers that you're due, that you're hot, and that you're the hero of your own casino movie. You're not. Um, disciplined gamblers know the truth, right? When your ego is loud, your edge is gone. Passing the dice at that moment isn't weakness, it's mastery. We've been at tables before where we know people who are good shooters, and for whatever reason, they ain't feeling it at the moment. And I sure as hell don't want them rolling the dice if they're not feeling it, because that means they're prone to making a mistake. So they've mastered the tool of pass the dice because they know that they'll have a better chance of going home with full of chips if they pass the dice and not shoot them and be a dickhead and automatically PSO because they weren't feeling good about it.
That's spot on. Usually, you get some people who thrive with their egos and stuff, but more often than not, it's exactly what you said, where you think you're, the hero in your own movie, and more often than not, you're the villain in that movie because you're the one who's costing yourself money. So yeah, don't let your ego make decisions for you, right? It's funny. My dad always told me when I was younger, like he goes, "There's a lot of people who have big egos," and he told me always, I'll never forget. He goes, "Don't let your ego ever write checks that you can't cash." And I was like, it's an interesting one. When I was younger, I was like, "The hell are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about?"
I'm not going to
As I
say
got older,
I'm not going to say your dad might have gotten it from Top Gun, but the line in Top Gun is your body's writing or your ego's writing checks your body can't cash.
Yeah. Well, my dad's also he loves Top Gun. So, I mean, that would go hand in hand. There you go. But it's funny because that is something he would say to me is like, don't let your ego write checks you can't cash. Right. And, it usually came from something sports related, right? When I was younger, playing sports and stuff. Like, yeah, the ego is there, right? To me, it was more of my competitive edge than like an ego type thing. But same thing at the tables, right? Craps, blackjack, roulette, baccarat, poker. Poker's a big one. There's a lot of egos in poker, right? Some people, that's your shtick. But you always got to know that your ego isn't controlling what's going on, the cards in your hand, the dice in your hand, whatever it may be. So if you're feeling egotistical, pass the dice because I don't want you shooting on my table.
And just a side note, Chris Dad's greatness is the fact that he did the miracle speech before his soccer games and other sporting events. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So, wisdom from Dad can outweigh a lot of shit in life.
Oh, Papa DJN is a legend. He's a legend. He's a legend in my hero book. He'll probably listen to this and be like, can you not do that? Or he'll text me some sappy thing afterwards and be like, it was so nice that you said blah 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 blah. Either way, Dad, love you. 'Cause I know you're gonna be listening to this because you listen to all of my videos and podcasts and whatever I do. But great episode, Dosey Dose. Really enjoyed this one. Got a little deep there, talking some mind games, some psychology. Introduced the idea of the gambler's toolkit a little deeper, and just we're just getting deep on these episodes recently, and I love it.
I'm kind of feeling that the next episode, and this might be a little hint to it, but I think we might get into sports gambling. It's been a while since we talked about it.
Ooh, little sports, we say. Getting into some sports. I love it. We'll talk some sports maybe next week. But for this episode, great episode. We also had our second Blackjack Brief with Bruce. And we're really enjoying those. Hopefully you guys are as well. And there's a lot more coming with that. Again, as I said in the first episode, we're kind of setting the groundwork here. There's a lot of interesting information to come there. So if you're interested in that, definitely let us know. And we will keep it coming. But folks at home, don't forget, if you want to order anything from Casino Tiers, casinotiers.vegas, 15% off if you use the code FullofChips15. I'll put up the flyer up on the screen so you can see it. Go support Ed and Tenton. If you want to reach out to us, you can reach us via email, fullofchipspodcast@gmail.com, or on any of our socials, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Patreon. That link is down below. All the other social media, it's Full of Chips Podcast. You can find us there. We love you all. Craig, any final words for episode Dosey Dose?
Any final words? The final words, episode 22, the hard four, the 2-2, the ballerina. Don't let your ego get in the way of you being full of chips.